calf run is starting for us, and this year there's a lot more optimism about what this cattle market's doing. Hi everybody, Coulter Brown here from the Northern Ag Network with this month's update on our livestock markets. Typically the early fall is when we start to see the cattle market drifting lower, but the strength has been maintained really across all markets, all classes of cattle. The biggest question ranchers are asking is how high can it go and how long will it last? Today we're going to start out looking at the futures market that's had a surprising amount of strength. We'll talk about what's going on the fed cattle side of the market, wrap up the video sales season, talk about the yearlings that are starting to come to town, and this month we're going to spend a little more time on the sheep side of things. But before we get to all that, I want to thank the sponsors of our report. Not only is Ag Risk Advisors providing this market video, but you might want to check out their live long-range weather forecast with Brian Bledsoe. That's coming up on October 12th at 7 p.m. Head to prfadvisors.com/agriskalmanac to join. And thank you to the Wyoming Beef Council for their support and what they do to help build demand for beef.
I raise beef here in very isolated Wyoming because at 7,500 feet my cattle are the best way to take care of the land, the environment, and create wildlife habitat. Plus, this isn't land that would be suitable for growing any other type of food, but my cattle allow me to raise safe, wholesome, healthy, and nutritious, high quality protein to feed not only people here at home, but people abroad as well.
Well, one of the big reasons that we're going into the fall with so much optimism is the futures market that's just been higher and higher, kind of a contra-seasonal year. We're looking at feeder futures that, while have had a few down days in the last month, they've set new contract highs 5 times. It's been a pretty impressive run here. Fundamental support coming from the cash market and the strength that we're seeing at sale barns as feeder buyers have to compete for a smaller supply of cattle. Nearby contracts had the smallest gains in the last month, but 2024 futures posted $9 and $10 increases. Now, the new contract highs were not limited to the feeder cattle. Live cattle also scored their share of new highs as well. We saw $5 to $7 gains for the live cattle. Actually, it's been fun to watch as that April contract has flirted with the $2 mark. Hasn't quite gone there yet, but I think it's only a matter of time. The live cattle scored those increases despite a rather lackluster cash market. The cash has really been range bound for most of the summer here, not plummeting lower by any means, but also not building much for strength either. For 5 consecutive weeks, we saw the cash cattle market lower, but in just the last 2 weeks, finally started to pick up a little. Now we're seeing live sales around 185 and dressed at 292. Look for that range to continue through about mid-October before that cash market should start to move higher through the end of the year as feed yards gain some more leverage. Well, the cattle on feed report came in pretty much exactly as it was expected to, actually, as the tighter supplies of cattle are really reflected in feed yards. Total inventory down 2% from a year ago, placements down 5%. Numbers are increasing as they usually do this time of year with more cattle coming into feed yards. The weather will dictate placement patterns as better precipitation could reduce placements due to heifer retention and expanded grazing opportunities. Now, placements over the last month likely supported by hot and dry weather conditions as the drought has largely moved out of the west and into the Midwest and Southeast. So because of that, I don't think we've seen the end of shrinking in the national beef cow herd. You can see how the drought has moved there. Numbers will probably start to grow in the northern plains as more heifers are kept back, but actually we don't see the national herd bottoming out for about another year, and that should only help to support cattle prices. Of course, costs do remain a concern. A lot of ranchers have seen some help on the hay cost side of things, able to produce a lot of hay this year. And speaking of feed, corn prices quite a bit under where they were last year. Now, they've been pressured lately by USDA saying that increased corn acres this year would offset lower yields. So we've seen the corn pretty range bound lately, kind of hovering from $4.75 up to $4.85 a bushel. Really, the biggest concern for the market over the next year is demand. Beef demand has proven extremely resilient, hitting 30-year highs in just the last couple of years, but inflation and economic weakness is a concern. Now, box beef has managed to stay above the $3 mark, hasn't dipped below it yet, but it is something that we have to watch here. But for now, the old adage remains true that consumers will eat as much pork as they want, as much chicken as they have to, and as much beef as they can afford. Well, let's talk about the summer video sale season. Pretty well wrapped up now, but it wasn't just a strong season, it was a record one. We saw 5-weight steers this summer average $297. That's up $82 or 38% from a year ago, which equates to an additional $450 per head. 5-weight heifers are $78 a hundred higher, averaging $271. Nationwide, the percentage of heifers on feed, or heifers selling on the video rather, steady with the last 2 years, indicating that significant heifer retention is not occurring yet. Summer video sales historically offer an average premium of $75 per head compared to cash sales in the fall. Now that's due to the seasonality of the market like we mentioned, but also more program calves on the video, which does tend to prop up the average. Prices are expected to soften seasonally over the next few weeks, but certainly a more modest price break is expected. We've just barely tested the spring-born calf market at our local auction yards. I will mention in Miles City they had some 391-pound steer calves sell for $3.91 and some 475-pounders sell at $3.48. But what we're really seeing coming into the auction barns right now is yearling feeder cattle coming off grass, and boy, that market has been impressive. Each week we are reporting higher and higher prices. At Torrington Livestock and Stockman's Livestock Exchange in Dickinson, 7-weight steers largely selling from $265 to $279, the 8 weights from $245 to $269, 9-weight steers mostly $235 up to $250, and a lot of 8-weight heifers come to town. They're bringing $229 up to $245. And of course, September is always ram sale month, and we saw some strong prices. At the Wyoming ram sale, the average was up 26% from last year. The Montana averaged 7% higher, and the ewes at the sale in Montana, they were about steady with a year ago, but a much larger offering. Lamb prices have come down slightly, as of course we're just seeing more numbers hitting the market right now, but we're still talking about prices well above last year. A year ago, 80-pound lambs in Newell averaged $118. Last week, they averaged $234. Now the lamb prices are getting some help from a much tighter supply of lambs on feed. One concern to watch, though, is drought in Australia, where they're seeing record lamb harvest. Their prices have already fallen 45%, and the Australian dollar has fallen against the US dollar, which could create an opportunity for cheap lamb to come out of Australia. So that's a market that we have to watch, but for now, just enjoying the improved prices. Well, thanks so much for joining us for this month's report. Good luck with the weaning season. We'll catch you here in a month and talk about how the fall calf run is impacting the market and how prices are holding up. Thanks for joining us, and have a good one.